to order the Woburn School Committee meeting for October 28th, 2020. If we could all please salute the flag. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Excuse me. Good evening, everybody. If the Superintendent Secretary to the School Committee could please call the roll.
Ms. Chisholm.
Yes.
Ms. Cormier.
Present.
Mr. Lipset.
Present.
Mr. Kissel.
Here.
Mr. Mulrennan.
Present.
Dr. Wells.
Here.
Ms. Crowley.
I am present. Great, so we're all here and accounted for. This is the Woburn School Committee meeting. And second on the agenda, we have the approval of records for 10/13/20. Any
Motion
action?
to approve?
Second. I have a motion to approve and a second on the table. Any discussion on that motion? All in favor? Aye. That motion passes. Those minutes will be published. Next, we have citizen participation. I am told that we have a citizen en route to come and present to the school committee.
Okay.
So we will move on with the agenda, and when that person appears, we will move back.
Front door open.
Is the front door open?
I came inside, so.
Okay. So we'll just wait for some sort of communication if that person's unable to get in the building. We have our student reps here, and I neglected to put it on the agenda.
I'll make a motion, we suspend the regular order of business.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, so we have student reps that have been selected by Jessica Callanan to represent the students in the high school. I didn't know if the superintendent wanted to introduce these bright young ladies to the school committee, and we will hear a presentation from them.
Sure. We're lucky tonight to be joined by Sarah, Delano, and Faith. I don't know how to pronounce your last name. I apologize. Frandulo? Faith Frandulo. And
Yep, she is.
anyway, so they are obviously at home, but kind enough to join us tonight to provide us updates from the Woburn Memorial High School, and will do so throughout the year, whether remotely or in person. So without further ado, if you want to take yourselves off mute, and I would recommend introducing yourself, telling a little bit about yourself, and then updates as it relates to the high school. That would be great. So, Sarah, do you want to start?
Yeah, I'll start. Hi, I'm Sarah Delano. I'm a senior at Woburn High School. I ran for this position because I was interested in taking a leadership role because I never really had in the past when it came to student council or like class officers. And I thought that this was a good position to have because it allows me to represent my class and also just the student body in general. And also I run cross country outside of school, so I have insight as to what's going on there too.
Alright, hello everybody. I'm Andrew and I'm here at Woburn High School, and I ran for this position very similar to the reasons that Sarah ran, in that sense that I've never been like a representative. I never ran for student council. I was really curious about becoming a representative and supporting my student body, and I find it really like intriguing to be in this sort of setting. So I'm excited to learn more through this position.
Thank you. And I just want to remind you and the public that this meeting is being broadcasted and recorded. So anything that anyone says will be heard, broadcasted on YouTube, and also made part of the public record. I forgot to give that warning. Additionally, we limited the people that could spectate in person to
Matt, if
5
you mute it, they
people.
can't hear you. They can't hear her.
Yeah, so I'm not necessarily giving a warning to them. I'm making a record of the warning, so thank you.
Yeah.
Dr. Crowley, can you just summarize what I said, and then we'll continue? Thank you.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Essentially, just a notice that these meetings are recorded, so you're agreeing to be recorded and have your face shown. So I guess at this point, if you could update the school committee on how Woburn Memorial High School is going 6 weeks into the school year.
Okay, do you want to start?
Yes, absolutely. So, for the past 6 weeks, student government elections took place in early October virtually, and now the student government is working on a virtual activities fair to expose students to the club offerings at WMHS and expand membership.
As for National Honor Society, unfortunately last year due to COVID trouble, we didn't get to have a ceremony for those who were inducted into the National Honor Society. And fortunately now that we are back in school, we are able to have a ceremony, or multiple ceremonies actually, that follow the COVID regulations. So we're going to have 3 separate ceremonies. One November 9th for cohort A, one November 12th for cohort B, and one November 18th for those that are who partake in the virtual academy. And those will be recorded so that parents can later view them, because there's no audience members allowed because that would be too many people.
Okay, the PXATs took place on October 14th, and over 320 10th and 11th graders tested safely at WMHS. Usually there is an underclass award ceremony in the spring, which again, like the National Honor Society, did not take place due to COVID. This did not happen due to the COVID pandemic and a hiatus from school. The class of 2021 awardees are now being announced this week and presented with certificates in the beginning of November.
Yeah, I believe Ms. Callahan said that they'd have a virtual ceremony mid-November as well. College visits are taking place virtually for seniors, and the guidance department has a Google Classroom, which I think that they are announcing the virtual tours on. And Miss Marcus's environmental science class had a student from last year, Noah Delawall, who was awarded an honorable mention for his poster in a Massachusetts Water Resource Authority 2019-2020 contest. And his poster is being displayed at the Metropolitan Waterworks Museum on 2450 Beacon Street from October 14th to January 14th.
The Key Club is hosting a blood drive at the Crown Plaza Hotel, and the address is 15 Middlesex Canal Park Drive, Woburn. And the room that is going to be taking place is the ballroom, and the date is Monday, November 9th, 2020, from 1 o'clock p.m. to 6 o'clock p.m. And community members can sign up. There's a link over on my page to make an appointment. I believe there is an app through the American Red Cross that can also give you more information about how to sign up for the blood drive.
AUM students from the class of 2021 were recently awarded the John and Abigail Adams Scholarship from the Department of Secondary Education. This is based off of merit from the MCAS test from their 10th grade year, and the purpose of that scholarship is to reward and inspire student achievement and help attract high-performing students to Massachusetts schools, as well as provide financial support to their families. And also, we have Anna Warda and Catherine Julison, who are also part of the class of 2021, who are National Merit Scholarship honorable mentions. Yeah.
And for a fall athletics update, ongoing use of the new turf, and there will be playing next weekend, as well as there'll be no fans due to the red status of the city. A band update, the band is practicing in and outside of the school following the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education guidelines. Back to school night was a success, and there was positive parent feedback. And there will be an Alice and emergency procedure drill on November 9th for cohort A and November 12th for cohort B. And that is it for our report.
Great job. Thank you.
Tell them that the school committee deeply appreciates their commitment to this position, and we congratulate them. I thought they were chosen as fill-ins, but they were elected, so I want to wish them congratulations.
So Ms. Crowley just asked me to let you know that the school committee is deeply appreciative of your reports tonight, but and congratulates you on being elected to the position. She wanted to let you know that we wanted to acknowledge that it's an elected position, not an appointed position. So, thank you. Does anyone have any questions that you would like me to ask?
Yes, Mr. Lipset.
If possible, I would love to just hear sort of a student perspective on what it's like to be back in school right now.
Did you hear that question?
I heard it's student perspective being back in school.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So being back in school, it's kind of bittersweet, I think, for most people, because obviously we're very happy to be there, especially this spring, which is so difficult being home all the time. I think a lot of people mentally are healthier because we have a social atmosphere again. But the Wednesday class days are a little difficult for most people, mostly because there's not like a very large break between classes, and sometimes if teachers go over their time, there isn't a break at all. So it's just kind of sitting in front of a screen for 6 hours, and it can get very draining. But I think overall, mentally, we're all happy to be back and willing to kind of endure that in order to be able to continue like that.
Yeah, I completely agree with Sarah. It's definitely good to be back in some form. And the Wednesday classes are definitely a struggle, doing remote learning from home. But I'm sure if we could be back in school full time, we most certainly would be. So it's just great we get to be back for those 2 days that we are.
Thank you.
Mr. Mulren?
If you could, Dr. Crowley, just ask these young ladies, I guess, Sarah, how track is going, and for both young ladies, if they have any younger siblings in the schools right now, and how they think the younger ones are adjusting.
Cross country.
So,
Cross-country
if you,
track.
I'm just sort of acting as the liaison. So, if you heard the question, great. If not, the question to Sarah was how cross-country is going, and then to both, if you have siblings, younger siblings in the district, in school, how's it going for them?
Cross country, I'm just very appreciative that we didn't have season at all, because my best friend is captain of the swim team, and her season has been postponed to the fall too, and they're not even sure if that's necessarily going to happen. So I'm hoping for whatever number days you can have with a full season. I'm proud of my team that we're all following guidelines well. Ask when we don't wear them, just because it can interfere with our breathing, and some people have asthma in the first place, so it can get very difficult with physical exercise wearing masks. So we try to space out while we're running anyway. But overall, I think that it's been successful going back to practicing and competing. I think that it's something that I'm proud of, definitely.
What about the siblings, anybody?
Yeah, and for me, I have a brother and a sister. My sister goes to the Joyce, and my brother goes to the Reeves. In terms of how it's going for them, they definitely enjoy, again, being back in school, but it is kind of a struggle when all three of us are home and try to figure out the dynamics of the remote learning. But, I help them out, on Thursdays and Fridays on the off cohort days with their schoolwork and stuff. But, definitely, I can definitely kind of see a change in them not being in school full time. But overall, at least they get those 2 days when they're in their cohort.
Thank you very much.
Yes, Dr. Wells.
I just wanted the superintendent to pass on a commendation, from me at least, to their classmates and how they're following the rules. We see a lot of communities where high schools are having to shut down because the students aren't following the rules, and I appreciate their effort and their classmates' effort to follow the guidance on social distancing and so forth.
So Dr. Wells asked me to pass on commendations to you and your classmates and everybody at the high school for following the rules, because it allows us to stay in school. So, we deeply appreciate, and you've seen, I think Dr. Wells alluded to some local high schools having to shut down because students weren't following the rules. So, thank you very much.
It's a two-part effort. If we're allowed to go back, then we have to do our part and make sure that we can stay there. So.
Okay, so do we have anything more for these very articulate, intelligent students? No, okay. So they can go or they can stay and participate
Right.
in the meeting. So you already warned them of that.
Yeah, so Sarah and Faith, it's up to you. You're welcome to stay in the meeting, or if you have homework or anything to do, feel free to close the computer, especially since it's Wednesday.
Yeah,
I heard you.
kidding.
I heard you.
Yeah.
It's out there.
Yeah.
There's a half day, yeah.
All right, thank you.
I'll make a motion, we return to
Thank
regular
you.
order of business,
Nice meeting you.
citizen participation.
Yes. So we have a motion to return to citizen participation. I am seeing our citizens participate. And do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
The motion passes. We will now return back to citizen participation. Yes. So,
Dr. Paulus, all right.
It's going to be here?
yes.
Yeah.
So there's the seat right there, and it looks like people next to you are 6 feet away, so.
Pat. Pat, do you want to put the light back on?
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes. And I just want, I don't know if, Ms. Kuberry, before you begin to speak, this meeting is being broadcasted. You are being recorded. Your face is being recorded, and this will become part of the public record. So good evening, and thank you for coming.
Thank you, and thank you for bearing with me as I went to the wrong place. So thanks,
It
guys.
happens. It's okay. Thank you for coming.
So thanks for having me. I've never been here before. That's evident now because I went to the wrong place. I come here on behalf of my daughter, her teachers, our administrators, and I'm a teacher in a surrounding town, so I really want to be here to support everyone. I want to start by giving you a picture of what our day looks like as a virtual academy student. My daughter's in kindergarten. Every day she logs on and she gets out her coloring supplies. She colors. She occasionally looks up at the screen. She answers questions when called upon. She seldom raises her hand to contribute, even to answer questions she can readily answer to us. She understands that her teachers can't see her. After about 20 minutes, she asks to sign off. We encourage her to stay on and prompt her to continue to engage and raise her hand as we work nearby. She has no meaningful interactions with peers. There are no morning meeting greetings, no casual hellos. She has not been able to ask her peers a simple question like what you did over the weekend. She's not been able to wish a happy birthday. When in a large group, she's instructed to mute her mics at all times unless called upon. When in a small group, she's instructed to have her mic and camera off until the teacher arrives and leads a specific curriculum activity. She's not participated in any classroom activities where she's allowed to say what she wants to a person of her choice. Instead, she answers teacher questions and is prompted to wave or give a thumbs up to her peers who she can't see because of the iPad configuration. Additionally, she's not read a book. She's practiced some letter sounds along with her peers. She waits her turn and then says the letter sound, then listens to 17 other students say the sound, N, nut, N, 17 times before moving on to the next sound. Meanwhile, she colors. On Friday, it took a full 30 minutes to review 7 letter sounds. She has not read a single word. She's not done a choral read. She's not held a book. While her neighbor in hybrid receives weekly books and poems, has access to class books, my daughter receives nothing. Our neighbor reads his poem aloud to his class every week. Our daughter doesn't read. The vast majority of read-alouds in our class are videos, not books. My daughter follows the rules. She keeps her mic muted while other students interrupt and are rewarded with social interactions when they unmute out of turn. In addition to books, my daughter does not have access to the school supplies that children in hybrid access. Our neighbor does weekly crafts. We do none outside of art. We are asked to print materials on a nearly daily basis. This includes the paper that the children write on every day for foundations. We finally got access to the Lexia software just last week when the hybrid students had access weeks before. Additionally, my husband or myself needs to be near my daughter at all times. She's given oral instructions, and though they're often manageable, last week she listened to instructions for for an independent activity for 25 minutes. She loses track of what she's supposed to do during independent work and simply has a text-based list of multiple tasks describing what she's supposed to do. She has a bingo board for non-tech activities, which is also text-based. She's not received any instruction in reading words, but all of her independent activities have text instructions or lists. Her teacher provides audio recordings of the main instructions via the Seesaw app, but the digital worksheets have sentences upon sentences within the app that she cannot decode. She requires adult support to access these. She was recently assigned a 7-page All About Me book last week, which required reading sentences and typing words. After emailing with her teacher, we were permitted to write or use pictures. How is my daughter supposed to present her All About Me book to her peers when she cannot read the prompts or her responses? Hint, the teacher just asked her questions and she answered. This isn't a presentation. Non-technology options like posters were not offered. My daughter has met with her teacher one time individually for an assessment. All of our requests for one-to-one support or meetings have been ignored. Virtual Academy used to have morning announcements to help build community and exchange information. They said the Pledge of Allegiance, they voted on a mascot. We do not know what the mascot is, and the morning announcements were discontinued when Ms. Kent left. We no longer say the Pledge of Allegiance. Instead, our teacher mutes her mic when the school announcements come on, silence ensues, and the students sit and wait for the moment to pass. We have no Spirit Week. What I'm asking is that you close the gap in equity between hybrid and the virtual academy. I ask that you provide kindergarten aids to our teachers so that she can utilize meaningful small groups, so that read-alouds of books, not videos, can be incorporated into literacy blocks, so that the foundation lesson takes less than 30 minutes for 7-letter sounds, so that our children have supervised opportunity for social skills building. I ask that you prioritize the virtual academy kindergarten for subbing. As hybrid parents count on in-person days for childcare, so do virtual academy parents, and kindergarten students cannot work remotely for a full day with no adult facilitation. I ask for focused PD for our virtual academy teachers to learn and implement strategies specific to virtual learning and the grade level they teach. I ask for appropriate independent activities so that our kindergarten children can work without an adult beside them to read instructions and type responses. I ask for one-on-one teacher check-ins about independent work. I ask for books and non-technology paper and craft activities to be provided and incorporated more often. I ask for the district to stop relying on parent printing of non-technology activities and send home weekly or monthly materials. I ask the school and the teacher to do the preparation that's required for school, not the parents. I ask for visual supports that our students can manage their independent work time. And I ask for you to reach out to parents and gather information about how the virtual academy is going for everybody. In summary, I ask for the support that the virtual academy requires for our students and teachers to be successful. This includes administrative support. The virtual academy is larger than any of our current elementary schools. As our main administrator was pulled back to her home school, the virtual academy remains extremely large and is only supported by one administrator. I'm beginning to understand that some of our administrative support may come from our home school, but I do not yet have a clear picture of how that will work. I speak tonight on behalf of my daughter. I speak to share a home experience as no one has asked for our feedback. There have been improvements in the past month, but there's a long road ahead to close the equity gap between hybrid and the virtual academy. I prepared these words for tonight. I sent them to Ms. Young ahead of time because I wanted to have that conversation with her. She coordinated a meeting just this morning where I shared with Ms. Frog and Mr. Babasari these words, and they really gave me some nice time, heard my concerns, and are really doing some excellent problem solving, I think, around these real problems that the virtual academy has. So thank you guys. I know I spoke a lot. So
Thank you very much, Ms. Kuberry. Appreciate it. If you want to give us a copy of what you wrote for the public record, that's fine. You don't have to. Your words.
Can I send it?
Perfect. Of course you can. You
I
can
will
send it to me.
to you.
Absolutely, yes, Ms. Kuberry.
Okay. If send it, I'm leaving. I'm going to pick up on my phone. I just don't want to take it.
You're welcome to stay,
So
welcome to
thanks,
leave.
guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And so what I heard from that is that administration had a chance to address these concerns, so school committee is happy with that. Mr. Lipsett, to the extent that there are school committee sort of issues, maybe your subcommittee can keep an eye on those requests and make sure that VLA has the same resources as hybrid.
I'd be happy to, and we had a meeting last week, and we'll have updates on.
Oh, you did? Okay. Thank you, Ms. Lipsett. I appreciate that. Okay, I'm not seeing anybody else for citizen participation, so we will move on. Not seeing city council liaison, I just put that on as a placeholder. He wasn't supposed to present to us. School committee calendar, you have in your packet.
Sorry.
Oh, of course, Dr. Crowley.
Can we?
Move to suspend the regular order of business.
Yes.
And move to reports and presentations of the superintendent.
Yes, okay.
Just
So
a
we have a
second.
motion, I have a second. Any discussion on hearing from the people that have been waiting in the queue for presentations? None? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we'll hear from people sitting. Thank you, Dr. Crowley, appreciate that.
Sorry, so on the call to represent the elementary school is Rob Nickerson, who's the principal of the Malcolm White School, and Tom Quayle, the principal here at the Joyce Middle School. And we've asked them to just provide updates as it relates to each of their levels, and at a future meeting, Ms. Callanan will join, although the students did a great job. So
Yes.
maybe you folks could get your students to do a report next time. But anyway, I keep saying we've had a successful opening, and I really believe that. It's been imperfect, but it's been awesome, and here we are. And so just an opportunity to share your experiences with the committee, and it'll probably be the same sort of format. If there's questions, I may either need to type them into the chat or just I'll ask them on their behalf. So, Mr. Nickerson, if you want to kick it off, that would be great.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you for having me. I have to echo Dr. Crowley's comments there that I think that it has been awesome, and I also think that it has been imperfect, but we have come a long way in a relatively short span of time. At the risk of stating things that are common knowledge at this point, but students are in either the hybrid, which is to say 2 days in school and 3 days outside of school model, or they are in the virtual academy model, where they are out of school 5 days a week. But in all circumstances, all elementary students have live in-person teaching on those 2 days, of course, and then they also have live teaching through the computer, much as myself and Mr. Quayle are on right now, on the other 3 days. So it's, quite frankly, in my opinion, been a pretty amazing undertaking that we have done to this point in being able to have that live instruction every day. In this short span of time, in the early week, or maybe, first or second week, there were a lot of issues, a lot of technical issues, how to log in, and so on and so forth. But relatively quickly, we've worked through all of that, and while, again, it's certainly not perfect, it's pretty darn good. And a lot of credit needs to be doled out in response to that. So certainly over the summer, there was a lot of planning that took place, of course, with the school committee itself and administration. But really, when the rubber meets the road, it's the custodians and the secretaries that are making sure that the attendance is taken, that the buildings are clean and safe. It's the teachers and the parents that are working with the kids all day, every day. And quite frankly, at this point, the unsung heroes are really the parents and the work that they're doing at home every day with all of these kids, with all their kids. It's really a challenge, and it's something that, without this partnership, it would not be the success that it is to this point. So thank you to everybody involved.
Thank you. The school committee wanted to wait till the end?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll wait till the
Okay,
end. And I just want to state for the record that Mr. Nixon is the principal of the Malcolm White, in case people are tuning in and didn't know that, so.
So Ms. Crowley pointed out that Mr. Nickerson's the principal of the Malcolm White, just for the record. And then Mr. Quayle, principal of the Joyce Middle School, if you want to speak now, and then we'll do questions after Mr. Quayle.
Thank you for having me tonight. I want to echo a lot of the comments that Mr. Nickerson made. This has been a huge undertaking, and going into the first day of school, I did not know what to expect. And the students have been simply amazing. They've been following all the guidelines and all the parameters we have with all the logistics and everything, and and the kids have just been amazing. And overall, the school has gone so smoothly because of a huge team effort. And like Mr. Nickerson said, it was the custodians, the secretaries, the paraprofessionals, the teachers, the students, parents, administration. It's just a huge team effort. And it's not a perfect situation, but as I keep telling the teachers and the kids, we want to get better every week. We're getting less and less technical issues as time goes on. The teachers are getting better with their lessons. The students are getting better with their technology skills. And the parents they're in a situation, they've never learned to parent like this. They have to become teachers at home, and they are really stepping it up for the most part, really helping the kids out. And overall, I couldn't have been happier with the way the school year started, given the circumstances. I mean, obviously, we want everyone in the building, and eventually we'll get there.
Thank you.
All right, so any questions from the committee? Yes, Dr. Wells.
Yeah, so the question would be to both of them, are any of the families having trouble with internet access on the days when they're not in school, or is everything been worked out?
So the question is about internet access on particularly days when students aren't in school. So I think you might have touched on that as it relates to technical issues, but if is that still an issue at all?
With us, we've had a few parents call and say, we had a computer, we didn't borrow one from school, we had one, but ours just died, we need one, and we usually get them one within a day. Today we gave on a hotspot to a student who told us that they lost their internet. And so whenever something arises, we get it taken care of pretty quickly. The technology department's been pretty amazing, turning stuff around pretty quickly to help the students and whenever they need stuff, or even the teachers, if they have a technical issue, they've been pretty quick to help everything out.
I think Mr. Quayle covered that pretty well. I will add that early on, again, in the first couple of weeks, there were considerably more concerns than there are now. Most of it has worked itself out. Technical issues are one thing, and then actually students logging in is another thing. So we are working very hard to make sure that the kids understand on their remote days that they are expected to log in and be present, regardless of the fact that they're not actually physically in the building.
Thank you.
Mrs. Chisholm and then Mr. Kessel.
Any busing issues that they've come across that they've had to deal with?
The question asked was any busing issues that you've had to deal with?
Our buses have been pretty solid. We haven't had many issues. We didn't know what to expect, and the buses pull up, the kids are spread out, sitting with their masks on. The kids have been fantastic in school, on the bus, whatever. They're following the mask protocols and everything, and I'm going to jinx myself and knock on wood, but we haven't had any busing issues at all.
Yeah, I haven't experienced any busing issues either. Everything that Mr. Quayle said, again, the mask compliance and the appropriate behavior and seating in their assigned seats has been excellent. I'll tell you, it's a strange feeling at the beginning of the day when a full-size school bus shows up and 9 or 10 or 12 kids actually get off of it. It's kind of like, where is everybody? And then the same thing and repeat, at the end of the day when we're putting them back on.
Mr. Kessel. Then
No,
Mr.
I just have one more.
Oh, of course, Ms. Chisholm.
It's from Mr. Quayle, and only because it's getting to be that time of the year, and I need my gift cards, and I don't know if PTOs are actually existing.
Pat with the gift
I'm
cards.
always able to get
Okay,
through
so-
them.
So
So this is a top priority.
This is top priority, Mr. Quayle. Ms. Chisholm is
What's the
wondering
gift
if the gift cards are going to be around this year.
We are planning on that.
Oh, yes.
Go on soon.
Okay.
You have to quarantine them for 10 days. though.
We'll have an emergency hearing on it,
Oh,
Pat.
absolutely.
If you don't get your gift cards. Okay, so,
No,
thank you, Ms. Chisholm. Mr. Kissel?
Christmas can come.
So the question I had, and Mr. Nickerson mentioned it, not so much the technology issue, but the logging in issue. I'm assuming that kids either aren't, some aren't, or, but my question would be, is it pretty rampant, or is it just here and there, and if so, how is it handled?
Yeah.
Do they reach out to home, phone calls?
Sure, so I'm gonna let them answer as well, but then we can address that question as well. So, the question asked by Mr. Kissel was, Mr. Nickerson, I think, alluded to it, or about the issue of students on their remote days logging in, and not the technical aspect of logging in, but the attendance component of being online when they're supposed to be online. And is it rampant, I think was the word that Mr. Kissel used, but then also how are we taking attendance and tracking it?
If I may, I wouldn't go so far as to call it rampant. That would not be my take on it by any means. I think that there are concerns with students remaining on when they log on at the beginning of a class and staying throughout. I also think, quite frankly, that there is that the majority of, or a disproportionate percentage of the students at my school that we are encountering these issues with are EL students. And quite frankly, the less English ability that they have at the moment, the harder it probably is for them, not necessarily to log on, but to really follow along while removed from it. That's where, again, a disproportionate number of our instances are taking place. In terms of how the attendance is being taken, I can certainly give you my perspective on it if you would like, but I think it may come out clearer and cleaner from somebody else, so I'll wait on that one.
All right. With us, if the students in remote, they log in with their first period teacher, so they're on from 8 to 8:10, and their first period teacher, they have their regular kids in school with them, but they're also checking attendance with those other students. And they submit the attendance, and although it's hard to track them all day long, but any student that we find out that is really starting to lack with producing work, the guidance department, in conjunction with the teachers, they're doing a great job tracking down kids and asking why they're missing certain assignments, and with kind of verifying what they're doing during the day if they're not turning in the assignments. But a lot of the kids out there are between 8 and 8:10 to check in for attendance. And then throughout the day, same thing, we monitor it. And when we post our attendance, if a kid is marked remote absent, some teachers will see it in the bulletin, they may call down and say, well, Johnny was in and he submitted 3 assignments for me, so we'll go back in and change them so that they're at least getting credit for attendance for that day. Okay. And we're also using our SRO and attendance officers, we're sending them out to remote students who may not be showing up on time or producing work as well.
So did I hear it right that the administration is going to address this issue later on in your presentation?
We can talk to attendance right now if you want,
okay.
Just because we're on the topic.
Doesn't matter.
Let me frame it a little bit, because when we set up schools, and I remember the first meeting talking about we're setting up 3 or 4 different school districts simultaneously, taking attendance on remote attendance. These are things that we're learning. So, but it's important because we have to track the data for multiple reasons, including what we need to submit to the state. But we're also looking at student achievement as it relates to are they in class when they're supposed to. So.
So our remote teachers, either in hybrid or virtual academy, have brought to our attention that there are a handful of children that are not regularly attending on their remote days, including virtual academy. The attendance is questionable. Sometimes they log on first thing in the morning and they're on for just a short period of time and then they're not. So Courtney Young, myself, and Dr. Baldassari have worked to create a form that we get filled out so that we can start to track attendance more closely. And we've included the principals in that process so that we can reach out, either an adjustment counselor or, the teacher obviously reaches out first, but the adjustment counselor or the building principal or other folks within the building that can help are able to take those steps to encourage and get more engagement on those out-of-school days.
And there's a little more to it, like it's multifaceted. When students miss a class for either a behavioral reason, and sometimes they have to be logged out of a class, we need to have a record of that. So we're still using an online referral system that we developed last year to ensure that there's equity there's an observation of equity, so that when we look, we can see who our students are who are missing classes. If they're EL students, if they're special ed students, if they're minority students, then we can intervene using the 3-tiered system that we have put in place over the last couple of years. And then taking it up to the higher level, we're working with our supervisors of attendance. I shared with the SSA subcommittee a new job description that's calling upon them to do their work differently and to use technology and to make sure that we're using our interpretation services because a lot of the issues that we're seeing in the community are sometimes exacerbated by an inability to communicate in English. And we've even, gone so far as to, we're getting them, it should be in this week, apparel, so that when they walk up to a home, anybody who's looking at them coming up to the home can clearly see the words Woburn Public Schools on what they're wearing. We want them to use the technology that we have in our student data management system so that when they go to a home, they know the parents' first names, they know what language is spoken in the home, they know if the child has a significant disability, they know if there are 2 addresses, one for mom, one for dad, where they may be going back and forth so that they know that there's 2 homes to go to. They know what the student's previous attendance record is, because these gentlemen may have to file a CR, a child requiring assistance with the courts at some times. So we've gone from what we did to now covering hybrid, to covering virtual, and then what we did in kind of enhancing what we were doing for everybody. So it's been a multifaceted approach, and certainly Courtney and Wendy and I have teamed up, and we're hoping to see good results from our work.
Thank you. And I'll just inform the committee that the mayor and I were in a meeting, and we both learned of this kind of glitch or this trend where students weren't signing on remote days, and the mayor indicated that he'd be willing to work with the administration and the school committee to develop ways to improve the situation. So I encourage the administration maybe to keep Ms. Cormier's subcommittee updated in case we need to take further action, because the mayor and I were kind of both concerned about it. So I just wanted to inform the committee about that.
It's just imperative that we have this data. It's been pointed out, I know in different subcommittee meetings, certainly the superintendent has said it, is that next year, when we're looking at the achievement of our students, if we find out that we had a student who was in attendance every day, yet did not log in for math, that's very important.
Yes.
When we look at a potential mathematics disability or lack of performance in mathematics, because it might not be because of some overarching factor, it may be because lack of instruction due to attendance. We must have that recorded.
Yes, Mr. Kissel.
I just wanted to follow up on this. Are you switching topics?
Just how many in your home, okay?
Do you want
I'm not on SSA, but I just want to make sure SSA is getting the data and they're going to follow the trends. For
Yes.
you guys talking about collecting data on absenteeism, so SSA
Yes.
will be getting that.
So
Okay.
SSA is now officially looking at truancy in the hybrid remote model, or truancy in general. Definitely.
Okay. And they will get the data, the actual numbers, and follow.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Is that okay, Ms. Cormier?
Yes, please.
Awesome. Thank you.
Well, the other question I
Yeah,
had,
Mr.
if
Kissel.
we just answered here, is that there, I know the Kennedy has about 100 remote kids. Is the Joyce about the same?
So the middle school, the middle school virtual academy is about 125 students.
Okay.
That's a combination of the 2 schools.
Okay. And on the elementary side,
There's 491
what total?
total. And that's K to 6, because our middle school is 7th and 8th grade with Edgenuity.
Okay.
Yep.
Ms. Lipsick.
Just a couple of quick follow-ups. So I'm talking about attendance on the virtual days, and I'm curious to see if there have been, if you've noticed any trends in change of attendance for in-person as well? I mean, have you seen attendance, what's the attendance been like in person? Has it shifted over the weeks that we've been in school?
Did you both hear that question? Do you need me to repeat it?
I heard it.
Okay.
I would say, I could run numbers, but I would say, as far as the kids being in school that are supposed to be in school, I would say we're probably around 95%, which is what we are if we were in full, when we expect the kids in around this time. I would have, the way the attendance gets printed out now with the RPs, which is remote present and remote attendance, it doesn't really calculate on the bottom of our bulletins like the traditional absences do. But I would say with the kids who are supposed to be physically in school, we're around 95%.
I would say it has to be similar to that as well. I don't have a number to give you. I can say, however, I believe it was last Thursday that at the Malcolm Light we had 100% attendance. Literally no one who was supposed to be in the building was absent, which was a pretty strange and amazing feat in itself.
That is awesome. Thank you. And just one other question. So,
Must have been given on ice cream.
Ice cream
they
day.
were, my son didn't tell me about it. Just to return to Mr. Nickerson, what you were saying about English language learners and attendance at Virtual Academy. Could you talk a little bit about, and Ms. Sprague as well, about in-school supports for EL students right now? What are teachers saying about the challenges that they're facing in a hybrid model? I'm just, if we're seeing problems with attendance on virtual, I'm wondering how that's coming into in-person as well, if that makes sense. And Mr. Quayle as well.
Did you get that, Mr. Nickerson? Or, I don't know, you want to answer that?
Yeah, I
here?
can, there's a few things going on there.
I think, well, just out of respect, I'm just going to tell you what's
Yeah.
going on, and then I'm going to put myself on mute. Dr. Baldessari, Ms. Sprague might take a crack at the answer, and then we'll turn it to you.
Yeah, when we had our most recent LPAC meeting, we had, I want to say it was maybe 30 in attendance, and some of the parents did say that they were having problems with their own children at home, being in attendance and staying in attendance. And, we're working, with Aaron Cooper, our EL director, and Adriana, our family and community engagement liaison, on these issues with families, because a lot of times the parents at home don't know what the students are supposed to be doing. So that's issue number one. Second issue that we had was for the students who are in full virtual academy, who are EL students. It's really hard right now to find an EL teacher. Mm-hmm. And these students really need services. And so we had to figure out a way to provide them with services so that they can have direct face-to-face instruction and they can converse in English with their teacher. So we worked with Barbara Locke and the WTA and Aaron and the EL teachers so that we developed an agreement. And what we have happening now is our regular EL teachers are giving up either their prep time or their hours after school so that they can provide individualized services with these students. And we had to use some additional funding, to be able to do that. During the school day, what's interesting is, with the cohorts, as far as getting services from EL teachers, is because the cohorts are split, in some cases, the groups are smaller. And, you have, obviously services are given remotely, even, in the hybrid model. So services are still being delivered, but as EL instruction goes, it's really best to happen in person, and not over a computer. And even when it's in person, communicating and using facial expressions with a mask on and being able to see the movement of lips and how you say or pronounce a word. Like, we have really put our EL students in a more challenging situation than they could have ever been in. virtually, and then when you are in person, what you would depend on to pick up the information that you need to communicate is covered. So it has not been easy.
Do we have access to clear masks?
We do. We do. But they're
Yeah,
not.
it's not the same.
Not only that, but some of them I've seen are smaller here. Obviously, some people can wear face shields if they're comfortable with that, but they fog up. You can't see the portions of the face that communicate your emotion. And it's, this is for anybody. Like, I depend on seeing people's faces when I communicate, and I'm sure you all do too. And so it's definitely been a challenge.
So I'm just thinking, and this is something that obviously we can continue to track,
Yeah.
but if there are adjustments that we might be able to make in terms of scheduling, in terms of cohorts, in terms of support, staffing, obviously staffing is an ongoing issue, but
Yeah, it is.
But yeah, I mean, this is something that concerns me in general. So certainly here, if there are those adjustments we can make, I would love to be kept in the loop in terms of how we can.
I feel strongly that the COVID era is going to create a larger gap for the students who we should be worried about the most.
Yep, so I think what the school committee is saying is that we want to prioritize kids that are most vulnerable, as always.
Yep.
And we're open to doing anything we can as a committee.
Absolutely.
Right? Okay.
I think we'll
Thank
be
you.
talking about that. Yeah.
Thank you for all of that.
Yeah, thank you.
So I didn't know if the principals wanted to weigh in on that, especially Mr. Nickerson.
Do you want to weigh in at all on the EL question?
I didn't really hear what was already said, so I don't want to be redundant, but if there's a specific, I'm happy to answer it.
I mean, I think it's covered, but I appreciate it. Actually, as someone who's in more direct communication or day-to-day communication with EL teachers, if either of you have any input in terms of what EL teachers are saying about what they may need or any additional supports, any particularly strong challenges, anything like that. And I don't know if I can, if I'm projecting enough for you there, but.
Did you get that?
Yeah, I did.
All right.
So if, I think that the EL teachers would give a very similar response to any classroom teacher or specialist in the district, in that they'd like to have more time with the kids, quite frankly, and there's not much that we can do about that at the moment. For the EL teachers, for all teachers, of course, but for the EL teachers dealing with the challenges, I continuously, for all teachers, of course, remind them to look for the things that are positives and focus in on those as best we can. And one of the positives right now is because of the hybrid situation, because of the cohorting, the numbers at any given time in front of you are smaller, of course, because we have to be more spread out. There are some opportunities to work with even smaller groups in EL because of that, which has certainly been a positive. But beyond that, at least at this point, I would say time is really the only other thing that they're looking for.
Okay, thank you.
And likewise at the middle school, time, and they always need more support. We have huge numbers at the Choice this year, and even though they're in half the time, they're trying to get as much taught as they can in the limited time that they do have. And I know the hybrid part, it's a lot easier for them to teach in the hybrid than when they're trying to remotely connect with the kids.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any more questions? I guess since we talked about the hybrid, I think it's fair for if Mr. Quayle, I think, could talk about a little bit about the virtual academy students and how that's going to.
So the question posed was if Mr. Quayle could talk a little bit about the virtual academy, if you know much, or we could bring Mr. Battle in, because he coordinates the
Maybe that would be better.
That's fine.
virtual academy.
I just want to
middle
make sure that
school.
we're treating both equally. So, yeah, we can have Mr. Battle just to have one topic on that.
Yeah.
Okay. So can we clarify that Mr. Battle is the.
He's the principal of the
Okay.
middle school virtual academy.
Why don't we
Gotcha.
just get
Okay.
all three,
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Wells. That makes sense. Okay. I'll withdraw my question.
So the question, sorry, Tom, I don't know if you heard that, but you're off the hook.
All right, so I'm just going to put a future agenda item. We have Mr. Battle and Ms. Young. And we'll just do virtual academy all day long. Okay, great.
And isn't somebody at the high school?
Yeah,
I
Miss-
thought?
Yeah, so
Miss
the
Kelly.
Oh, yeah.
assistant principals at the high school are
Okay.
dividing that responsibility.
Can send one.
Yeah, okay.
Flip a coin, whoever loses.
All right, I forgot about that. Thank you.
We are a joy.
All right, so anything else from these principals
Thank
from
you.
the school committee?
Thank them for their efforts in keeping the schools
Yes.
going.
Okay, they want to thank you for your efforts in keeping the schools going and genuinely appreciate all that you've done over the summer and continue to do. As I think it came through, is being in school matters a lot to the teachers and to the kids. So thank you. And I will end this meeting. Have a good night.
Right.
Not
Thank
the
you,
school
have a good
committee
one.
meeting, this meeting.
Nice
He's
try.
already taken his tie off, he's ready to
What the superintendent said.
I know, second.
All right, so moving on to vote to appoint Dr. Matt Crowley to the Board of Directors of SEAM Collaborative.
I'll make a motion to appoint Dr. Crowley to the SEAM Board of Directors of SEAM Collaborative.
Do I have a second? Any discussion on that motion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
That motion passes. Dr. Crowley will be representing the Woburn Public Schools on the SEAM Collaborative Board of Directors, which also consists of superintendents in the SEAM Collaborative.
Right.
Yes,
family.
yeah, thank you.
Okay. So let's go back to our calendar. Let's get that done because
We'll
Mr.
return
Moran.
to the,
Regular order of business.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, so we have a list of school committee dates in front of you. I think it's appropriate just to go to June at this
Yeah.
point, so Ms. Cormier and Mr. Mulrennan can.
I'll make a motion, we eliminate the November 25th and
Thank
December
you.
23rd meetings, that traditionally we don't hold those.
Okay,
If need be, the
Yes.
administration, we can always call a meeting, have a
absolutely.
second meeting during those times.
Okay,
Well, did
And-
you want to schedule a second one in November, the week prior?
This is rationale for it, and the administration needs it. I don't- The one thing we do have to get in is, unfortunately, we do have to do the superintendent's goals for the year.
yes,
And so,
Yeah, we can do that at the next meeting.
okay,
okay, so that will be on the 10th.
okay, as long as we can fit that in.
Additionally, I want to just pin something for you all that we might have to decide fall, winter sports.
Yep.
That might be falling on the shoulders of the school committee, so that's going to be a hefty vote.
Okay,
And so I'm planning to do that presentation and for your deliberation on November 10th,
okay.
and then we'll also do your goals. So they'll have two big items
Yeah.
on that night.
If we need to do a second one in December, before, or something like that, then we can do that at that
Yes.
time, if we find that we need something. But
Because we may need to do budget stuff too,
Right.
so.
Yes,
But we're
that's
gonna
right.
hit like November 11th is a Wednesday, so I'm just thinking
Okay.
November is just gonna be more difficult.
Okay. And so are there any other days, Mr. Mulrennan, that?
Yeah, Madam Chair, if I could, I do have a conflict coming up to actually 2021, the January 12th meeting, I would not be available for, so
Can you do the Wednesday?
Can you do the 13th?
13th I am available, yes, please.
Okay.
January 13th, as well as moving on to March 2021, March 9th is an option for me, but if need be, I can switch it. 9 and 11 are my obligations.
Can you do 10?
I can do 10.
All right. March 10th.
Sorry, folks.
Oh, no worries.
No?
Any other dates, Mr. Mulrennan?
Moving on to April
Okay.
2021, we will have all of our kids and everybody in the building full-time by then, I'm sure, and hopeful. My conflict in April is the April 28 meeting, so I have conflicts for 26 and 28, so
How about the 27th?
27th would work. Others, please chime in if you have issues.
Okay.
Yep.
And the last one is
None
June
of us are that
23rd, but
far
we're not
out.
going to worry about June yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
Those would be motions on the table to please readjust the schedule accordingly, Madam Chair, if possible.
all right, do I have that
Second.
motion?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All
Do
right, so,
appreciate that.
we will revise that and send that out to school committee members as the school committee calendar, which can change as things often do. And they will be in
Madam-
person.
Madam
Yeah,
Chair?
Just-
back
I
up.
was-
I just had a question. So I know the policy is that it's usually the second Tuesday and last Wednesday, but there were a few months that had the fifth week. I just wanted to make sure that we were doing whatever was appropriate, but Wednesday, the
Thank you.
24th,
I think we're good as long as we vote on it.
I'm happy with
Deviate
it
from
how
the
it is.
policy.
I just want to make sure.
Yeah, no, thank you very much.
Okay.
The other thing
think-
I was going to recommend, Madam Chairman, rather than the administration, I know the superintendent would have to come, make that January 4th one a virtual meeting.
Yeah, that's a good idea, too. Okay, I can work with the superintendent. He told me that he really likes to come.
Yeah,
in
but
person.
that's the end of the school vacate, and.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah.
So we could make that virtual.
Right, yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah,
Do-
it's just an organizational meeting.
Right,
It's
it's
not
just-
heavy agenda, so.
Right.
Okay,
So I think that one people could just do it remote.
all right. I'll make
Let's
a
go,
note on
let's
that.
go back in person.
I was going to talk about, I read about 2022 as something.
Stop.
Oh,
right.
come on.
You are dabbled.
Yeah, please.
All right, so that takes care of that agenda item. Moving on to subcommittee reports, finance. Ms. Chisholm, whenever you're ready.
That will be meeting next week.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Whoop.
Oh,
Dr. Crowley?
Sorry, we do have some other just updates just
Yep.
before subcommittee.
Okay.
I
You're absolutely right. I forgot we have a tech update.
there's just a few things. So,
Yes, no, thank you, Dr. Crowley. Here I am,
and
moving
I
along.
appreciate your
Efficiency.
willingness to skip items, but I don't want to shortchange anybody. So, just a couple things for the school committee and for anyone in the public that may be listening. We are working with the city, and beginning on Friday, November 6th, we're going to do testing, COVID testing, for all staff, and it's going to be on Fridays. We believe at the high school, it's free, beginning at 2 p.m., and I'm working out the details. I have a meeting at 9 o'clock tomorrow to iron out some of those details, but that was just put together over the last 24 hours. So again, all staff, free testing, and it's the PCR testing, and it's through the Broad Center, Broad Center, sorry, at MIT, and people can sign up online, and it's up to 200 people per testing day, and the results are usually available 24 to 48 hours after being tested. So wanted to share that news with the committee. I see a couple of hands already. What?
It's just free but not required?
Free but not required, correct, yes.
Dr. Wells.
Yeah, so I didn't know whether, if you get a lot of people wanting to do it, whether you need to develop some rules or better term, regulations. So, like we do middle school 1 week, high school, depending on the numbers you get and so forth.
Well, it's happened in other districts, so I think we'll learn from a couple other districts. And people, like I said, it's a first come, first serve, sign up online is the way it's been structured.
So the other question I had, because I assume this is coming from the governor's office, I saw wasn't this the one the governor was releasing these tests? I thought I saw something the
So
other
that-
day for students too.
So there is student testing.
So this is different?
This is different. This
Okay.
is for staff.
Okay.
So student testing, the state is in process of receiving potentially 2 million COVID tests for students.
Yeah.
Mary Heater, who's our nurse leader, was on a call today to learn more about that.
Okay.
Those are the rapid tests, and they would be administered to students. And we need, we indicated interest as a district, and we'll keep you posted.
Yeah, okay, so that's the only thing, I don't know whether we need to vote on that. If we do.
Though the mayor is running it, but we can vote to allow them to use our building for testing. I think that would be an appropriate vote. Why not?
I'm thinking, because it's actually the school, I believe all of this is coming to, well, correct me, I may be wrong, but just my hearing about it. It's a school, you're saying the mayor's running it, and I understand he runs a lot of things, but it's not clear that that falls under his domain as opposed to the school department's domain.
No, that's absolutely right. So
Yeah.
he's going to contract Anderson ambulance, is that right?
It is an ambulance.
Armstrong.
I don't
Right.
know which.
Armstrong?
Armstrong.
Thank you, yes. And they're coming into the school, so to the extent that we need a vote to approve that,
For the children?
For the
Or-
staff.
For the
The
staff,
staff.
okay.
yes,
Okay.
our staff.
Okay,
So
the
consenting
staff,
adults.
that staff's different, so I
Yes.
understand that.
Students would be different.
The
Yes.
students would be much different.
Yeah, so that one I think we should come to the school committee about.
Agreed.
Yes.
Okay,
We
so
don't
I'm
know
fine
the
with-
details on that.
Yeah,
But if you want to vote to allow them to use school
yeah,
grounds.
that's fine. Yeah,
That's I
Okay.
think, the appropriate
Okay.
vote. So do I have a motion to
well, I
allow?
don't know, Mr. Lipset might have a question.
I just got
Sorry.
one quick
Of
question.
course,
So
let's go with it.
you said 24 to 48 hours to get results for the PCR test. I assume those come out over the weekend, so that should someone test positive, they will know before the weekend is out. And
That's what I'm led to believe, yeah.
And if they're symptomatic, they want to become.
Yeah, if they're symptomatic, it's a whole different ballgame anyway,
Yes.
but
Right.
yes.
And Bob can tell you all about that. He's
Yes, I can.
fluent in quarantine
I
language.
never thought I would be, but here I am.
So I'll make a motion, Madam Chairman, that we allow the mayor to work with Armstrong Ambulance to conduct these tests for staff. in the
Second.
department.
Okay, any discussion on that motion? Ms. Cormier, did you have a question?
I'm
or
just
did you have
curious what
a comment?
times those will be available, just for the
So-
cohort B staff, to make sure that they can do it after the school day.
Yeah, well, it'll start at 2:00.
Oh, excellent,
So
okay.
2 to, I have a meeting at 9 tomorrow.
Till they're
so
done,
It's been pulled
yeah.
together in the last 24 hours. So
Great.
I assume it's going to be like 4 to 5 hours, because it takes a little time. But like I said, it's an online form, it's a Google form people fill out in advance. So when they show up, there is some efficiency to it, so.
Great. Okay.
um,
So I have a motion to allow this to happen on school grounds. Any further discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Great, so the superintendent will keep the, motion passes. The superintendent will keep the school committee updated as to when this will be implemented.
Great.
Okay.
Just a couple other updates. It was alluded to earlier, and, we talked about it. Staffing, is an ongoing issue. We still, there are still job ads out there, and we're doing our best to fill the gaps. I think, as of this morning, I think we had 68 subs in the Woburn Public Schools in a variety of different capacities. And it's, we're in school, and so I just wanted to make the committee aware. We're trying to address as many of these concerns as possible in a timely manner. So if anyone's listening, schoolspring.com is where you can find any of our job ads. A couple other updates.
Dr. Wells?
Question. Just so people understand the context of it, how many subs would you normally have in the school during a normal year?
Well, it would vary,
Yeah.
but a dozen or 20.
You're right, yes.
So it's
Right.
about 5 times the normal.
Right, so that's showing why there's a demand, for the subs and why we're having issues,
Right.
because this is 5 times as much as we normally would require during a day.
Yeah, thank you for the
Yeah.
question. The other part to that is other districts are also
Right.
looking for people.
Yeah.
So it's,
Right.
it's really a complicated algorithm to work out right now. Dr. Baldessari, we did have a visit from Desi last week to visit our supervised learning centers. A couple people from the Department of Education came to visit. We toured the YMCA and the Boys and Girls Club. And I don't know if you want to speak to that a little bit.
It really just affirmed the great work that we've done in partnership with the Boys and Girls Club and the mayor and the YMCA. They, on their tour, and at the end of the tour, they asked us for information. They would like a copy of our application. They wanted to know about our processes so that they can help other communities do the same thing that we did. So we were really happy to welcome them, and it was a great experience for everybody to know that we're doing something that's in front of all others, many others at least around us.
Thank you. And it was the visit was well received, and it's it's fascinating to see these buildings transformed into, the gym at the YMCA is now a classroom, and it's pretty wild what's going on to support our kids.
The associate commissioners asked us questions because other districts are having issues, and they wanted to figure out how we troubleshooted those issues, so then they could go back and advise those districts. So it really felt like it was a very successful visit from my point of view as just an observer. So,
Yeah.
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We also, Ms. Sprague, if you want to talk about the elementary, the shift of the parent-teacher conference.
Sure. So in looking at the calendar that we created, and the half-day was today and it ended up being for the middle school and the high school, because parent-teacher conferences are next Thursday for elementary, and it's typically aligned with the half-day so that they have time to address every parent's needs if they request time. So we made that shift in conjunction with the union to approve for the switch just for elementary. And today, the secondary folks engaged in some Edgenuity training. The teachers who have been using it did a little bit more data analysis stuff to be able to understand exactly how to use that information in the program to share with families. And our non-Edgenuity teachers in the middle and high school, if they were interested, had the ability to learn how the program works and how they could access parts of it to use with their students.
Thank you.
Thank you. We've had robust conversations around parent communication, and we think, and that we are considering some kind of soliciting feedback from parents at this point, but
similar to the surveys that we did in the spring.
Yeah, so, and part of the reason I'm saying that is because, parents, and you heard the principals talk about it, parents are more engaged with their students' learning than ever before.
Correct.
And so if there's an issue, we're thinking that they're addressing that almost in real time, whereas, in the past, people may have waited for these nights to occur, but we're still going to move forward with them.
Thank you. Mr. Lipset?
Yeah, and just in response to that, and I agree, I'm sure that communication is happening, and I know that communication is happening more regularly. My concern is especially in light of what we're hearing with regards to EL students, that communication may not be coming from a full cross-section of our families. And I don't know that a survey will necessarily get at that anymore, but any opportunity we have to hear from parents of our high-risk kids or our more vulnerable kids, we definitely need to take. So,
all of the surveys we translate, so we can't. Unfortunately, we can't make people take the surveys. So,
but yeah, give every opportunity.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Dr. Wells?
So along those same lines, because this is a new occasion with parents hovering over their kids while they're learning, but I don't know if we've developed any kind of guide, especially for the new parents of students that are starting the elementary process, but when to, because you have to let people fail in order to move forward, and it's hard as a parent, I know, to let your kids stumble, and so I don't know if we've given the parents guidance about those kind of things, when to step in, when to step back, etc.
That's a good question. Thank you.
So the quick answer is yes, we have, and it's actually on our website.
Okay.
I sent it out in a correspondence to families a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
And for that exact reason, and I can tell you just candidly, one of the things I did to research it was to reach out to other superintendents to see, and everyone said, that's a great question. There's no good answer. It's one of those things that you don't know until you're in it. So we put together what we believe is sort of a guide for families. And then two other items.
Of course, go ahead.
One is we meet every Tuesday afternoon with the Joint Labor Management with the WTA, and it's been a very productive time. And we meet at 3 o'clock, and Ms. Crowley sits in on the school committee. Barbara Locke, president of the WTA, Eric Shukan, they've been the constants in it, and then various people come in to represent different perspectives, including cohort C kids. And so, it's and the conversations are collaborative. We're problem solving. We're trying to work through some of these issues rather than have them become major issues. So, you know, Dr. Baldessari alluded to the EL students earlier, to try to, you know, again, we're making up school in real time, and we're trying to acknowledge people's working conditions and keep people safe. And so it's really been a good productive use of our time. And the last item, it's in your packet, but I'll just speak to it. But Jen Judkins was she's been unbelievable since she was hired. But we've been really fortunate to have her in the district since closure. Just a couple updates. The device distribution. So you may recall in the spring and summer, I was saying to the committee that our plan was essentially we're going to have a one-to-one for everybody in the Woburn Public Schools. So with the mayor's support, we ordered 1,900 Chromebooks at the end of June. We received 1,000 of them last week, and it's actually a sight to see when the Joyce cafeteria is stacked with 1,000 Chromebooks. So on Wednesday, we were all involved in unpacking the Chromebooks, breaking down the boxes. Some of the principals took the foam so that they could use them for projects at the school.
Nice.
So it was really a tribute to teamwork to try to get these devices into the hands of students. And so today, as of yesterday, we had about 880 on back order still because there's a global supply chain issue, but we received 100 today. So they're going to start rolling in dribs and drabs is what I'm told. And so what we've identified are people that need the computer that absolutely get one. And you heard Mr. Quayle talk about that. We ordered 20 hotspots for the district. You heard Mr. Quayle allude to that. We also have a partnership with Comcast Xfinity, so families that need support can get the internet at a much reduced rate. And we are in the process now of working with the city to buy more hotspots, because the way that I'm understanding it is the hotspot's only good for one person, not the whole house. And so, there's limitations to some of these things. But it doesn't. The connectivity isn't necessarily right now a major issue. But we want to think ahead. And so the devices that we have are here. We started distributing at the high school first. Last week, we started at the Joyce the same way we did the spring distribution with families driving in. And then the people that needed to get devices, we brought the devices to the school. And so you can see, I think Cohort B will be getting devices at the high school tomorrow, for example. So it's almost military precision how this thing is being rolled out, but it has to be because these are $300+ devices, and we want to know who's getting it, where it's going, and that we're not being careless with these devices. Because the hope, if you remember, Jen came prior to the meeting just prior to shut. She had a 5-year plan that's been pushed into 5 months. And so, then the Kennedy and the Joyce will get devices at the end of this week. And Monday, we have iPads, and you heard Ms. Kuberty, talk about her daughter on an iPad. So that younger kids can't type necessarily, so that iPads are the devices for our younger students. We have those, and those are going to go out next week. And the elementary Chromebooks, the anticipated, that's the 900 units. That's what I just spoke to. So those are in the queue, and like I said, 100 arrived today. So as they arrive, we're going to push them out. And so I want to commend Jen, but just to inform you as it relates to the device status, and also publicly thank Mayor Galvin because of his support in this endeavor. There are silver linings to this pandemic, and our technology department has really gone above and beyond, and our staff are learning things in new ways, and we all are. And so I want to publicly say that. The other update, and we had a meeting, was it yesterday? Every day. It's
Just yesterday?
Was it just yesterday? Yeah, it was Tuesday. Tuesday at 1, right?
Yep.
So, and I asked a question of Jen, and she's great, and she said, you know what, Matt, we rolled out way too many. You would never do what we're doing.
Yeah.
Like, you would roll out one thing and get good at it, another thing and get good at it. Like, this is crazy what we're doing. And
But we're doing it.
But we're doing it. And so actually, we're all going to, voluntarily or involuntarily, we're going to.
As a sign by the superintendent.
We're doing
it.
We're doing it.
Yes.
But we're all
It's already a calendar, check the calendar.
Yeah, we're going to learn. Jen's going to teach us these tools.
Yeah.
So, because I think it's important that we know, more beyond just the basic idea of it, how it works, and be able to support everybody. So, but her comment was really funny. She's like, Matt, you would never do this, like this is, and so, so just in names, Seesaw is for the younger grades. Google Classroom is really grades 2 and above, and used daily. The kids are more savvy than the adults, not surprising.
Yeah.
And we are, just to be clear, we're not using Zoom. A lot of districts may be using Zoom. We're pretty committed to Google as our platform. It's free, and it really provides a lot of features that, including this new feature, Google Meet, where you can push into smaller groups. And so that was promised over the summer, and it became live a couple weeks ago. And Google is a really responsive company to some of the needs of its users. So IXL is the math and ELA at the K-5, and I think they're using it at 9th grade for math.
And for some special ed groups up at the high school.
Yeah, so Lexia, you heard mention of, that's funded primarily through the Cummings Foundation and through the WCEF grant. So thank you to them.
And it had just recently started to be used because there was a glitch in the order for it. So recently, it just became available to all our students.
One of the nice things, I think, for everybody, and as people that we all have passwords, Clever is sort of a one-stop shop for your passwords, so students just need to click one place. And, again, as people that have passwords in life, I need Clever for my...
Yeah, they log into Clever and they get tiles for everything else that they have passwords to, so they can just click in on the tiles.
The password to get their passwords?
But they only need to remember that one.
Just one, and then it opens up everything else.
Or you might be helped, depending on who gets it.
It would have to be very clever.
Bada boom.
In the app that we were talking about yesterday, there's an app called Remind, which is it's a communication tool that allows people to get texts in multiple languages, and we want to start using that. That's the app that Jen told me to wait nicely. She said, she doesn't know it well enough yet because she's still, but we're getting there. And that will allow for the translation piece, so people receive notices in their native language.
Wow.
Screencastify is sort of a recording tool that teachers are using to provide the asynchronous work, so recording lessons and sharing slides, etc. And Edpuzzle allows for to make the online learning a little bit more interactive, and so it's a myriad of tools. I think our staff, our teachers, deserve a lot of credit because they are doing things in different ways and using tools that they've never heard of before this year. And our students are also doing really, really remarkably well. And so I just wanted to kind of provide an update to the committee as it relates to technology. It probably might be a good agenda item, although I feel like she jinxed us. But to have Jen come in maybe and provide some more detailed information, at a future meeting. So.
Well, this was great, and I really appreciate the effort that Ms. Junkins put into this. Does anyone have any questions for technology, or we could wait till
I was just
she's
going to comment,
done?
Madam Chairman, for us
Go ahead,
who've been
Dr.
around a little longer. We remember that we had staff that wouldn't use computers not too long ago. And, you know, just the push that this has done where you can't do education now without using a computer. And again, one of the byproducts of this pandemic is that, you know, we're not going to have to worry about teachers not being able to use computers in the future.
Thank you, Dr.
Yeah.
Woods.
I agree. I think it absolutely has accelerated any
Right.
professional development beyond anything that we could have imagined.
Right.
Anything else on this? No. Okay.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Ms. Mullen.
If I may, Madam Chair, to the superintendent and the administrators, we heard from those young ladies this evening from the high school. I think it's time again to congratulate the athletes, the families, the parents. We've done enough of that. Just the fact that, and the superintendent, you said it, we're still in school. We'll probably get out of this meeting shortly and go home, and there'll be another district that's closed because somebody didn't want to follow the rules. And how important that is to follow the rules for all of the students involved in our district and our staff members. So at this time, if we could, Superintendent Crowley, I think probably an opportunity. We get plenty of emails, plenty of updates, just the opportunity tonight. Woburn's still in the red. Just go ahead and explain where Woburn stands with that, if you would, please. And the only other comment I'd like to hear from you tonight is, obviously there'll be no snow days in the future. How Woburn is going to deal with so-called snow days, and I'll shut up. I promise.
Yeah. No, I told them this is the only time we can talk.
Yeah.
Thank you. So to answer the question specifically about Woburn and the coding in red, over the weekend, the city had 22 new positive cases, but 0 affected the Woburn Public Schools directly. We have currently 4 students that are on quarantine, or positive cases, 4, but not in school. We have 0 staff that have tested positive throughout. And so the city, again, a tribute to the Board of Health. They've been very proactive. As residents, I'm sure you're all getting the alerts and trying to take measures to keep us safe. And so, with the holidays coming up and Halloween, it is a time where people are tempted to get together, and we hope that people continue to make good decisions so that we can stay in school. As it relates, you had another
Well, it was
no policy.
snow day.
Snow
So
policy, as well as, if you could just back up a little bit, what the commissioner had to say today about what schools and districts are doing, or you can save that comment for another night, it's up to you.
Oh, yeah, so one of the things, and we've said this earlier, so the question is, when does a district shift models from hybrid to either in-person or hybrid to remote? And the guidance hasn't really shifted. We're being asked to look at multiple weeks worth of data. So I think tomorrow is when because they changed the date. They changed it to Thursdays, I believe, that the data comes out at the state level. I believe will probably be red again, so that would be our 4th week in the red. But what they ask us to do is it happening in schools?
Right.
Is it and the answer, as I just said, we're not finding that right now. And then, is it happening in the community in clusters? We're not finding that. It's spread out throughout the city. Is the positivity rate in the city is significantly higher? We're not finding that. So there's multiple different data points that would make a decision to pivot one way or the other.
Hospitalizations. And
Hospitalizations,
strain
right?
on
So,
hospitals.
right. So I know that the Board of Health has daily contact with our school nurse, and they also have daily contact with Winchester and Leahy. And so, there's a pretty tight communication I have a Monday meeting with the city COVID response team, and then a daily communication as needed with whomever at City Hall to provide any updates. So that's as it relates.
Just where they're getting the word out tonight, Dr. Pelley.
Yeah,
Thank you.
no, thank you. I appreciate the question.
Great. Mr. Lipset?
So I appreciate that you are being kind to Desi in your assessment of whether or not their protocols have changed. I do feel the need at this point to speak that, what I think has come out of Desi over the course of this has made all of your lives immeasurably harder. This has been a big change in terms of the messaging. This map was released over the summer, very clearly tied to school openings, and that has since been walked back and changed on multiple occasions. And I know that makes running a school district and predicting what's going to happen in the school district incredibly hard. So thank you for all the work that you and the Board of Health and the mayor are doing to monitor this. I do think it's worthwhile to remind people that ultimately, what happens in our school district is determined by yourself in collaboration with the school committee and the mayor and the Board of Health, and not necessarily tied to DESE, to the map, or to DESE suggestions.
Unless it's the governor.
Unless it's the governor, of course.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or unless it's Desi.
Yes.
Yeah.
Unless there's a statewide
That's
mandate,
right.
we have that ability to determine for ourselves as best
Yes.
as best fits the needs of our students.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, Dr. Wells.
And I think this reflects, again, it's an unknown, so when the state came out in the summer with these guidelines, they didn't know what was going to happen in the fall when people went back to school. And I think what it's showing is, at least, I'm giving a positive spin, is the reflection that each community is different. Regardless of the numbers are saying, each community reacts differently and so forth, and how the community reacts. And I think that's the thing that we're dealing with now. We've seen how people go back to school. We know what our community is doing. We get the pulse of the community, and we react to that when the superintendent makes the decision. So I think it goes back to this idea that autonomy of the school systems in Massachusetts are local, and they should remain local because every community is different.
Thank you. And we will continue to take this very seriously, as we always do, and we will meet as needed and continue to work with the Board of Health.
Yeah,
David.
thank you. I appreciate both comments, and it is a tribute to the teachers and the students as well, because we have great conversations with the WTA, as I alluded to, but when I'm in buildings, sometimes people get nervous when they see me now because they're worried, but people are very eager to tell me how happy they are to be back in school, and how much they do not want to be on a computer. So, again, we don't want to be reckless at all, and we want to be safe. And we're dealing with the pandemic, and that's front and center of every decision that we're making. So, anyway, that being said, the last thing that was in your packet, and it was asked for previously, and Wendy put this together, but it was just a comparative enrollment, so you could see it, and the numbers speak for themselves, but if you have any particular questions, or if Wendy wants to talk to you a little bit.
Just briefly, so the school name and what you see on the row that follows the school name is how the comparison from 1920 to 2021. The kindergarten and pre-K I put in there because the state has been asking us for that information. So it looks like, we gained a kindergarten student at the Alta Vista. In kindergarten, yes, but the number remained the same because there was a loss somewhere else. It's just the way that it balanced out. So when you do the overall at the elementary, we're down 178 students. If you totaled up every number in that column, it doesn't come to 178. You just need to total the line that's along the school, because the kindergarten's sort of embedded in there. I just pulled that out so that you could see those changes. On the back is the middle school and the high school. Not a significant drop in our enrollment, comparatively speaking. And then the homeschool divided by level is the last category there. and there's a significant increase in homeschool. As part of the information that I gave to parochial schools, we had 30 students that transferred to parochial schools. So that's another big number of people that have moved. That accounts for that. The private schools were limited. It was about 7. But we did have a lot of students that did transfer out of the district to other states or other towns, or any various things like that.
Thank you, Ms. Gray, for putting that together. Any questions on that? Yes, Dr. Wells.
So I assume the virtual academy students are embedded in their schools?
Yes, they are.
Okay. Yeah, and then the only question, is the 178 decline as opposed, I'm just worried we're missing people that aren't being educated in the community for other reasons. Maybe they're not communicating with us and so forth. I'm just trying to understand that 178. Like, how many did we expect, I guess, versus how many we're missing, so that we can, I'm just, that's my biggest concern, that there are people that we're not communicating with that aren't in school but should be in school. And I just want to see if we can delve into the data.
I guess that's a question we could ask our principals to look into and look at their list from last year and who they expected to have returned.
Right.
But, I mean, schedules were made for all the students that were with us last year. And so I would anticipate they would be getting marked absent, and people would have reached out if we were really missing people. If someone new moved into the community and didn't register their child and we didn't know they were here, that's another issue that we probably need to consider how to address that.
Generally, what happens when a student leaves and goes someplace, there's a records request by that place. And when a student comes here, we request records. So that's how we usually find out. So it's not likely that that happens, but we will certainly double, triple check.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's the typical homeschool number?
40.
Yeah, it's in the 40s. So last year it was 49. I think that increased when we went remote in March. So that increased a little bit. I think the original number was around 42, which was pretty stable over the last few years.
Thank you. Ms. Lipset?
There's probably no way to know this, but I'm noting that the only 2 elementary schools that didn't go down at least into double digits are both in North Woburn, and I'm trying to figure out why that might be. I mean, is this because we've had students leave those schools, but also there's been population growth, or is there something else going on?
I don't know that. Yeah, I haven't dug into the data that deeply to know a reason for it. Besides, I know that North Woburn's tough.
There you go.
So,
There you go.
No aspersions on the rest of the city, of course. But
absolutely not. But I know that they're
thank you.
Loyal.
yes.
Okay. Any questions on Woburn Public Schools enrollment comparison data? No? Okay. Kind of interesting like that. All right, so we're ready to move on. Dr. Crowley, I'm really sorry I cut you off earlier. Okay. Subcommittee reports, Mrs. Chisholm, Finance, whenever you're ready.
We will be meeting next week on the 5th.
Oh, fabulous. Okay. November 5th, great. Personnel, oh, I'm sorry.
Actually, to Ms. Chisholm or to Bob, lunch, just get the word out some more about lunch if you could, to the public that may be listening tonight or out there.
Sure, absolutely. We'll continue to push that out. Yep.
Mike wants you
Lunch
to say,
being
tell
free.
people it's
Yeah,
free
just
until
tell
the end
people
of the
again
school
that
year.
it's extended.
Free through June.
Yes.
Free through June.
There you go.
Okay,
The
thank
signs
you.
all over the place too.
It's signed all over the city. I just know, it's a different time of year now,
Yeah.
and just keep that update going. And I know your office is probably tracking the numbers, but
Yes.
are they okay? Is lunch people telling you there should be more going out? Or?
Yeah, they're a little down from last year, and I think that's simply because we typically are having half the students in class at any one time. There is some lunch fatigue in that the menu is limited in terms of what we can put in a brown bag. So we do have some hurdles that we're trying to get over. So we're only in for a couple of weeks in September, and the mid-October numbers were down slightly from last year. So I expect to get those, the October numbers in full in a couple of weeks.
I think it's great that we're able to offer these free till June. So families should, possibly take advantage of that. Thank you for that update. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Ms. Mulrennan. Personnel, did you have anything?
Personnel has not met. We will meet as needed with the
Okay,
administration instruction as such.
thank you. Curriculum data trends,
Did you want me to
Mr.
say that my subcommittee will probably never meet the rest of this school year?
Yeah, I mean, I figured resources is,
Yeah.
thank you, Dr. Wells.
Goes from the hardest work.
I was gonna say, there you go.
I know.
It's just still with finance, though.
Pretty easy to figure out.
Okay,
got it.
go ahead.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, we met on Thursday, October 22nd at 3 o'clock p.m. In attendance were myself, Dr. Wells, Ms. Sprague, and Ms. Courtney Young. First, administration does report an overall positive start to the year, and that adjustments are regularly being made in consultation with parents, with staff, with administrators, and we heard a little bit of that today, which is great. In terms of virtual academy updates, administration is continuing to work on providing materials to virtual academy students. Foundation materials have gone out. We are planning to provide physical novels to middle school virtual academy students. They already have ebook access. We're in beginning stages of discussion with Woburn Public Library over the possibility of potentially providing book boxes if resources allow. And sort of following up on things we've talked about, Dr. Wells did make the suggestion that survey be sent out to the parents, talked about survey to staff as well, anonymously, that this would be a useful gathering of information and data for us. And staffing, again, does continue to be a challenge. There is at least one positive note there. We did have an opening for a 6th grade foreign language teacher at the, foreign language teacher for Virtual Academy. That position has been filled. Let's see, Ms. Young reports that breakout rooms in Google Meet have been really successful. The teachers are reporting positive results, positive interactions. There was professional development, as Ms. Sprague said, today on Ingenuity for teachers throughout Virtual Academy and outside Virtual Academy as well, or just teachers?
Yes, teachers that are not assigned to the virtual academy that may want to use the Edgenuity platform because it is site-based by building.
Okay.
So both the middle schools and the high school, anyone in the building could have access to it.
And there are ongoing discussions on how best to support long-term subs in the district, especially those who are new to teaching, which is something I can't even begin to imagine. In the event of that we have to pivot to full remote, we do have plans in place, as Ms. Sprague says, to do so, quote, on a dime. And obviously there will be bumps in the road, but we have plans in place to do so. And that current hybrid remote staff can provide extra intervention and data analysis for Virtual Academy students should we need to make that transition.
It would be for our in-person, the hybrid as well.
Yes.
They wouldn't be assigned to Virtual Academy.
Yeah, but that it would be available to all of our students, Virtual Academy.
We need,
hybrid.
yes.
Yeah. In terms of hybrid learning updates, we talked about how teachers are tracking learning loss, tracking time on learning, IXL using it in terms of assessment for tracking those skills. Ms. Sprague pointed out that Mayor Galvin has been very supportive of all of our needs, including support for funding, and we thank him for that. And we're addressing any discussion, any request to move from hybrid to Virtual Academy or vice versa on a case-by-case basis as resources and space allow. The SATs are not offering any city-specific testing at this point. It has to be open to all. Ms. Callanan is looking into possibly ACT testing that could be city-specific, as we're not totally comfortable with having open to all communities during the pandemic. And we adjourned at 3:57 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lipset. Any questions for Mr. Lipset? Not seeing it. I just had a question. The foreign language, I heard about this, but what can parents expect a change in student schedules because of the new hire?
So parents were notified that we had done a survey initially to see if there was even a desire. It was only for 6th grade.
Right.
For the 6th grade at Virtual Academy. There were 25 families that responded and were interested. 21 of those were Spanish 4 of them were French. We weren't able to find a French teacher, and with that low of a number, we probably wouldn't have opened a class anyways. But in communication with them, one of them uses an app and is quite comfortable with that and wants to continue with that. And another, like we didn't hear from one, I believe, she may have heard today, Abby Gillis has been in contact about that. But as of yesterday afternoon, there was one parent that was thinking about doing maybe Spanish, and then there was another that just was fine with waiting until next year.
Okay, that's great
So,
news.
yeah.
Thank you, because Mrs. Chisholm, you asked about that last time, so, yeah. Thank you very much, Ms. Lipson, for that. Okay, moving on to policy, Mr. Kissel.
I'm going to be speaking with Dr. Baldassari tomorrow regarding some upcoming policies that we want to address.
Thank you. Okay, and student services and achievement, Ms. Cormier.
We have not met, but I thought I might mention the notes from the LPAC meeting on the 20th.
That would be awesome. Thank you, Ms. Cormier.
So, like Dr. Baldassari mentioned, there were about 30 parents in attendance. Adriana Mendez-Sheldon went over the online class meeting expectations, so things like finding a quiet spot, being prepared, arriving on time, behavior, etc. The parent guardian expectations as well, including supporting, assisting, communicating, and then encouraging independence of the student. There were a few questions as far, and this again was mentioned as far as absenteeism, kids logging in and then leaving the house potentially, so parents were just concerned about the communication for that, making sure that they were made aware so that they can track down their child. Dr. Baldassari did make a statement just reminding everyone that we are able to be in school because of the low cases of COVID, which are kept low due to our protocols, masking, hand washing, social distancing. And if we want to continue that, we just want to remain vigilant and make sure we keep the kids safe, not only when they're going into school, but also outside of school, in the home, in activities, and that it's everybody's responsibility to keep the schools open. The upcoming meeting, first week in December, they hadn't finalized that yet, but they would love to have more parents join. One parent asked how she could help out, and really it was just, getting the word out, recruiting parents. This is a brand new, they've only had a handful of meetings at this point. So making sure the parents who need this resource are aware that it exists, and questions regarding buildings with multiple tenants, and if someone on one floor contracts COVID-19, what should they do? And the answer was to speak to their doctor as well as the principal and the nurse at their respective school. And that was it.
Thank you, Ms. Cormier.
No problem.
30 parents, that's great. Who's the moderator of the group? I'm sorry.
It's Erin Cooper. And then we have Adriana Mendez-Sheldon, Eliana Sosa, and Vitaly Memus, who are translating throughout. And it's really not as tedious as you would think it would be to hear things said 4 times.
Thank you to the staff members that do that, and thank you to Ms. Cooper for, getting 30 parents involved. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
and a number of teachers
That's fantastic.
also attend.
And I would, I hope that eventually they form a board, and then we would have a person, eventually.
Yes.
When it gets organized, they would have a board, and then we could officially recognize them and have a liaison. But
In the meantime, I'll take their notes.
Thank you so much. Okay, so future agenda items, just to reiterate, we're having Mr. Battle, who is the principal of the VLA middle school, and Ms. Young, who is the elementary VLA. So we definitely keep monitoring our VLA students, as well as an assistant principal to talk about the high school level. Winter sports are going to be a debate and deliberation on whether or not we're going to have winter sports. So if you need anything from the superintendent regarding safety measures or anything in place, let me or Dr. Crowley know.
Could we have some information on how many students are participating in the fall sports so we can kind of evaluate, when we're weighing, whether to have winter sports? If there's a lot of kids, then obviously we're more likely. If there's not a lot of kids, because kids are concerned and parents are concerned, that helps.
Thank you, Dr. Wells. And yes, Mrs.
Maybe
Chisholm.
we have Mr. Duran kind of chime in.
Oh, of
Sure.
course,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, and I appreciate Ms. Crowley. Sorry.
Go ahead, Dr. Crowley.
No, but just the question about sports. It really, at this point, we're waiting on any guidance from the MIAA or DESE. But the way that the fall was handled, you know, they made a couple decisions, like, for example, they took football off the table.
Right.
So we don't know yet even what we might be deliberating.
And, so along those same lines, if we could, because it was my understanding like that Reading didn't want to play against Woburn because we're red, but we're still red, but I think I still see us playing communities, so
Yeah.
if Mr. Duran could explain that, because it was confusing to me.
I can explain it,
Oh,
actually.
okay.
Yeah, so really what happens is because when Woburn went red,
Yeah.
you know, obviously it raised flags. And so what happens now is every week, since the athletic directors did a nice job, so we play the same team back to
Right.
back.
Yep.
So we played Reading back to back. This week we're in Lexington week, and so we played Reading one week, and then we had a student test positive at the high school, not an athlete.
Okay.
So when I spoke, and so what's happening, the athletic directors are communicating, and then they're pushing it to the superintendents to have a conversation. So every week, usually on Wednesdays, we touch base about whether sports are going to move forward.
Okay. So it's not just the red community, it's more about what's happening again in the school.
In the schools, and also, you know, and what the locals boards of health in that community feel. So we played, you know, this past weekend, Lexington,
Right.
no fans.
Right.
So that was sort of the compromise to allow students to get out.
Thank you. Mr. Lipson?
Just in terms of additional future agenda items, could we consider seeing if Ms. Cooper, Erin Cooper, could come and speak with us as well?
Yes.
Or that might also be potential for a subcommittee meeting.
Sure.
Madam Chairman, along with the virtual academy, maybe, because we kind of know what it is, but maybe if there's issues that have happened, that, you know, sort of running themes that they're dealt with, explain that, and then issues that they haven't been able to deal with, you know, what the plans are and what we can do, sort of guide it like that, rather than just a general introduction to the virtual academy.
Yeah, trends and challenges.
Yeah.
And how we're overcoming them as a
Right,
district.
and
Okay.
what future challenges
All
and
right,
things.
so I'm going to do trends and
I
challenges.
think once we have a survey, that
Yeah.
would be even easier to.
Right, but what they're seeing as challenges.
Yes,
Yeah.
okay, awesome. And I think we should have a special ed update, and perhaps even cohort C staff come in and talk about some amazing things that are happening in cohort C. And Ms. Mulrennan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Also, you mentioned challenges, just so we can let the people know that, again, we're going to be very transparent and very active in this. Any update we can get from Dave Dunkley and the facilities folks as far as moving into the chillier weather, the winter times, what we're going to do for ventilation issues and whatnot, air quality in our buildings, you know, as we move into another season. So just not have Dave here, just if he could provide that, any kind of update as far as the future of that.
All right, great. So if you have any more suggestions, email me or Dr. Crowley. Oh, and Mrs. Chisholm.
Well, just on the virtual academy, because we did receive an email from another parent as we were sitting here tonight, and I don't want people to think they thought we were going to continue on that. So with doing it the next meeting, if parents have specific things, they could email you so that you can
course.
kind of summarize that.
Yes,
We don't want them to feel that we're just not paying attention if they get concerns about their kiddos at home.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'll mention that since you brought it up for the record. Lisa Lorette sent me an email regarding some concerns she has. I also sent it to administration to the extent that it was something administration should be dealing with. But it was general themes around not having the virtual academy mascot as previous, and some other, not having a paraprofessional in the same way in which the in-person and other issues regarding VLA. But you all received the email, administration received the email as well, so that's Lisa Lorette. So.
I got a motion
I don't-
we enter that into the permanent record, Madam Chair.
I don't think was this a recent email?
Yes.
I didn't receive that.
Okay, I'll send it.
If you wouldn't mind, that'd be great. Thank you.
All right.
So I mean, that way we could have sort of like, so we don't have to keep going over the same things.
Of
Just
course.
so the parents feel like they're being heard.
Yes,
Thanks.
so we'll enter that into the public record,
Mhm.
and all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that will be part of the public record. I'll send it to Ms. McLeod for publishing, and I think you did receive it, because I sent it around 7.
I don't know.
Today?
Yes,
Oh.
maybe around 6:45,
Oh.
yeah. Okay,
Sometimes
So-
mails take circuitous routes.
exactly,
Yeah.
it might be the choice. Okay, so future agenda items,
Yep.
that's that's thorough. Correspondence, we already spoke about the DESE delegation visit, and we'll move. I already did correspondence. I want to mention that the mayor sent around guidance to us to review regarding Halloween. He also published it in the city website, but it's basically don't gather and wash your hands and, you know, adhere to the very strict safety protocols that keep
That be placed
everybody
on the
safe.
school website as well, Madam Chair?
And I'm sorry?
Is that information forward from the mayor be presented to the school district website as well? On
Yes.
that page, in case people look at that, just another way of getting the word out.
Yes. Okay, so we can make sure that gets on the website. All right, we do have executive session for the purpose of strategy and collective bargaining.
Make a motion, we go into executive session for the purpose of bargaining.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Roll
Aye.
call vote, please.
Ms. Chisholm?
Yes.
In favor.
Mr. Lipset?
Aye.
Mr. Kissel?
Yes.
Mr. Mulrennan?
Favor?
Dr. Wells?
Yes.
Ms. Crowd?
Yes. So now.